In the grand theater of governance, the seats are empty and the actors are missing. Democracy's drama unfolds without its leading cast, leaving the understudies to make sense of the plot.
Ex-priest exploits family deaths to abuse disabled boy, police allege.
Fed staff question missing $1.4 trillion in hedge fund treasuries. When financial wizards make $1.4 trillion disappear, you start to wonder if they're magicians or just really bad accountants with a knack for creative vanishing acts.
U.S. budget deficit drops in 2025 while tariffs and debt payments hit records. It's like celebrating a smaller hole in your sinking ship because you found a bucket, ignoring the iceberg of unpaid bills looming ahead.
ICE Border Patrol agents paid during government shutdown, while others aren't. It's a twisted priority when border guards get paychecks, while the rest of the public sector plays financial Russian roulette with their livelihoods.
Salesforce promises ICE faster hiring of immigration officers, then claims ethical business. When tech companies help speed up border control bureaucracy, they prove efficiency can be a double-edged sword, cutting into our moral fabric with precision.
Schumer and Gillibrand clash with House Republicans over healthcare cliff, then call it a debate. When politicians argue over whether to save or cut the safety net, it's like watching a poker game where everyone's bluffing with our lives.
It's like scheduling a dinner with your current partner before dessert with your ex. The drama is more predictable than a reality TV show.
Ceasefire declared, yet thousands of children in Gaza, like one-year-old Ruqayya, still wait for aid.
Microsoft warns Russia and China escalate cyber attacks on the US using AI, raising alarms. When superpowers play the digital villain, cybersecurity becomes the Wild West. Welcome to the frontier where firewalls are the new saloon doors.
China exploits Trump's vulnerability by targeting rare earths, hitting a strategic nerve. When the world's gadgets depend on a handful of minerals, trade wars start looking like high-stakes poker with no aces in sight.
Trump's approval on immigration drops among AI adults, revealing a digital divide. Not even algorithms can find logic in policies that build walls instead of bridges, proving that intelligence, artificial or otherwise, recognizes a bad deal.
Pentagon's fraidy cat stance on transparency draws criticism from journalists. Fear of exposure trumps accountability, as if the truth were a classified document too dangerous for civilian eyes, because nothing says security like a blackout.
System of a Down's Kill Rock and Roll targets music industry hypocrisy. The band's raw energy slams the corporate machine, highlighting how rock's rebellious spirit was sold out for a tidy profit, because nothing's more punk than capitalism.
When billion-dollar companies play the victim card, you know the narrative's gone off the rails. Next, they'll claim to be the underdogs in the streaming wars.
Top 10 content generators flood market, yet creativity still costs. When algorithms write for us, we save time but lose soul. Soon, it'll be machines debating which AI wrote the best sonnet about loneliness.
Reddit co-founder declares internet's demise blames bots. When the architect of a digital giant
When even the digital pioneers admit it's a graveyard, you know the zombie apocalypse isn't just in the movies, it's in your browser history.
Home is messy to fuels record fundraising despite Trump allies' sabotage. When political survival hinges on cash over conscience, democracy starts looking like a rigged game of Monopoly, where the board's already owned.
Microplastic particles infiltrate semen, threaten male fertility with cellular sabotage. If our reproductive futures hinge on ditching plastic forks, maybe it's time to rethink what disposable really costs us in the long run.
ICE purchases millions worth of spyware, allegedly targets Americans. When your tax dollars fund Big Brother's shopping spree, remember, surveillance is just a fancy word for we don't trust you anymore.
No Kings protests erupt nationwide, states deploy National Guard. When the people's voice gets too loud, the powers that be prefer boots on the ground to ears in the air.
Kiss re-releases Deuce with new holographic tour. Tickets hit $500. Rock and roll all night, pay through the nose every day. Nostalgia's the golden goose, and fans are the ones being plucked.
Longevity clinics promise eternal youth, deliver expensive supplements. Fountain of youth for the gullible, where the only thing that ages well is the clinic's bank account. Immortality sold by the ounce, no refunds.
Putin and Trump chat, leaving Zelensky to juggle geopolitics before his White House visit. Diplomacy as a three-ring circus, where the ringmaster changes mid-performance and the audience wonders if anyone's holding the safety net.
Bamboo rebrands as a high-tech savior for green industries and circular bioeconomy. Eco-friendly dreams wrapped in a stalk that grows faster than political will, promising a future where sustainability is less buzzword, more reality.
Pakistani airstrikes hit Balochistan, 6 dead, 3 civilians injured, rights group reports. When collateral damage is the headline, maybe it's time to question the script, not just the actors, in this tragic drama.
Digital IDs embraced by Danes and Estonians find them pretty uncontroversial identity cards. When privacy concerns are drowned out by convenience, it's amazing how quickly we hand over the keys to our digital kingdoms.
Auto industry panics over potential chip shortage again after promising supply improvements. It's like watching a soap opera where every season finale is the same cliffhanger. Will they ever learn to diversify their suppliers?
TSMC rekindles AI wagers, stocks soar, ignoring tech bubble fears. It's the financial equivalent of betting your life savings on a unicorn race, magical thinking at its finest, with zero guarantees.
American rapper drops new track, evokes journey from Ponce to Peachtree. It's the classic tale of hometown pride meets big city hustle, where dreams ride shotgun with reality in a beat-driven Cadillac.
Driver loses control of bus in Saloa, 15 dead and counting. When public transport turns into a tragic lottery, the odds are always against those just trying to reach their destination alive.
Jimmy Wales preaches Wikipedia utopia, then ignores trolls. When your utopian vision relies on collective goodwill, you might want to check what happens when the internet decides to show its true colors.
Tony Blair meets Donald Trump, then claims diplomacy. When your diplomatic mission looks like a bad reality show crossover, maybe it's time to rethink who you're trying to impress on the world stage.
Study reveals astrocytes stabilize memories, calls it a breakthrough. While everyone else thought neurons were the rock stars, it turns out the real memory heroes were the roadies quietly keeping the show together backstage.
Country music release promises new sound, delivers same old tune. Lily Rose's Work Like That pretends to break new ground. But it's just another recycled anthem about trucks, heartbreak, and dusty back roads.
Trump claims millions rally for him, ignores no king's protests. In a twist of delusion, he interprets mass dissent as support, proving once again that reality is whatever he decides it is.
Iran sends Baloch children to cities for farm work, then calls it opportunity. When childhood becomes a commodity, the future harvests nothing but lost dreams and the bitter fruits of exploitation.
Republican governor deploys National Guard to no king's protest and claims it's for peace.
Sam Fender wins 2025 Mercury Prize for People Watching, claiming it's for the voiceless. The music industry loves awarding trophies to those who sing about the ignored, while it continues to ignore them.
Trump adds Arc de Trump to renovations, claiming it's historic. When your ego's bigger than the monuments you build, every arch becomes a gateway to delusion.
Electrotah launches at $1 billion, promises clean energy. When you swap fossil fuels for manufactured miracles, just remember, the bill for borrowing from the earth always comes due.
CSX demands $250,000 monthly, calls it fair. Because nothing screams independence like needing $250,000 a month from someone else's creativity and talent, right?
Congress approves pay raise, then slashes social programs. Apparently, public service means serving themselves first, with a side of moral bankruptcy. while the rest of us get to play the world's saddest game of survival.
Former Prime Minister Murayama dies at 101, Coalition remembered. In a world where politicians rarely make it past their prime, Murayama managed to outlast both his rivals and the faith we once had in political collaboration.
Equality's watchdog demands swift action on trans guidance. Ministers hesitate. When urgency meets political ambition, the only thing slower than progress is a politician's willingness to risk their career over human rights.
Orban plans chat with Putin while Zelensky heads to White House for Trump meeting. When political chess meets actual conflict, the pawns are the only ones who bleed while the kings discuss their next move over tea and lies.
Susan Ley lands in Melbourne to tackle crime, ends up boosting Victorian Labour's popularity. Federal intervention in state matters is like trying to fix a leaky roof with a political umbrella. Looks busy, achieves nothing, and everyone still gets wet.
Robin Hood targets babies in 404C, betting on cradle-to-grave trading. Turning life savings into stock market playthings is like handing infants the keys to a roller coaster, exciting for the sellers, terrifying for the passengers.
Baltic neighbors arm up, fearing Russia's next move despite NATO's reassurances. Stocking up on defense like it's Black Friday at the Apocalypse store, because nothing says peace of mind like a bunker full of canned paranoia.
MC Det's Stick Up drops in 96, unleashes jungle chaos, and nostalgia costs nothing. Back when bass lines were weapons and every track felt like a high-speed chase through a rave-infested labyrinth.
The Craps drop new psychobilly track, promises wild thrill, delivers nostalgia, chasing the next high while riding the same old wave, like finding out your new drug is just an old rerun.
Chinese copper smelters boost exports, prices soar, domestic buyers flinch. Chasing profit abroad while locals balk at costs, like selling umbrellas in a drought just because the price is right overseas.
Smuggler receives 40-year sentence for exporting Iranian missile parts. When fishing trips include missile parts, it's less about the catch and more about catching a lifetime in a cell.
Yemen's Houthis announce military chief killed, Israel claims responsibility. In the deadly dance of geopolitics, another pawn falls while leaders play their endless game of chess with human lives as disposable pieces.
Tom MacDonald drops Woke World and stirs up the echo chamber. Rappers posing as prophets for profit, selling rebellion in a shiny package, while the real revolution quietly waits for the curtain call.
Australian Education Minister claims AI chatbots supercharge bullying to a terrifying extent. When algorithms outrun accountability, the bullies get a digital upgrade and the kids get a crash course in survival.
John Bolton pleads not guilty to mishandling classified information while facing 8 counts. When those who whisper secrets in corridors claim innocence, it's a reminder that transparency is a rare currency in the halls of power.
Bank of America predicts long bond yield below 4% and gold at $6,000 by spring.
Scooter crosses Vistula in Krakow, bridging modern chaos with old world calm. When two wheels skim the surface of history, maybe we're just spinning circles around a city that knows how to stand still.
Chinese and British leaders bet on microdramas and kids shows for big distribution. When the future of global entertainment hinges on short attention spans and juvenile giggles, maybe we're all just children in a digital playground.
Pentagon reporters relinquish badges yet vow to continue reporting. When the watchdogs lose their kennels but not their bite, you know the truth can still slip through the cracks in the walls.
Morgan Stanley trading revenue jumps 35%, calls it success. When the rich get richer, they celebrate a windfall. When the rest of us get poorer, we call it Tuesday.
Boris Johnson praises ChatGPT then loves being called clever. When a chatbot flatters you, it's like a mirror telling you you're the fairest of them all. Reality doesn't stand a chance.
Hamas fighter escapes to U.S., then hides in Louisiana. When your country's background check misses a terrorist but flags a tourist, you know security's just a game of hide and seek.
Israel's central bank chief urges caution over inflation, calls it prudence. When inflation's the monster under the bed, central banks prefer tiptoeing over stomping, hoping the beast snoozes without devouring the economy.
No King's protests attract millions, defy Trump nostalgia. When autocracy's the new black, millions don their democracy tees, marching to remind the power-hungry that crowns are so last season.
When your morning commute comes with a side of shock and awe, just remember, nothing says safety like dodging shell fragments on Interstate 5.
When banks wobble, it's the golden rule. Panic loves company, but gold loves a crisis, turning market chaos into a shiny encore.
Trump blocks NYC tunnel projects, calls it fiscal prudence. When infrastructure is held hostage by politics, the trains don't just run late, they never leave the station, while leaders play chess with public transit pawns.
Reform UK Council leader berates members, calls it leadership. When suck it up becomes the mantra, it's less about governance and more about gaslighting, as budget battles turn into a circus of blame and bravado. Zohran Mamdani claims premature credit for Trump on Gaza ceasefire. When credit's handed out like candy before the ink's dry, it's less about peace and more about premature political posturing.
China overtakes US in electricity output, yet Trump doubles down on fossil fuels. When one nation's progress is another's regression, it's clear some leaders prefer to dig in the past rather than invest in the future.
Frieze Art Fair allows entry for £60 but claims inclusivity. When exclusivity comes with a price tag, art becomes a commodity for the well-heeled rather than a medium for universal expression.
Social Security disability promises stability until 2099, but fears linger. When bureaucratic assurances come with expiration dates, the vulnerable are left wondering if their safety net is woven from threads of empty promises.
Red Cross retrieves another hostage body, then Israel urges calm. When a coffin becomes a diplomatic tool, the line between humanity and politics blurs, leaving grief to navigate the barren landscape of conflict.
Tesla offloads Cybertrucks to SpaceX and xAI as sales slump continues. When your electric dreams turn into unsellable metal, the only option left is to launch them into the void or let algorithms drive them off the lot.
SteelSeries Arctis Nova 3 launches at $110, fixes nothing. Budget headsets promise champagne sound on a beer budget, yet somehow leave you with a hangover and the same old tinny echo.
Russian installed governor reports 2 killed in Ukrainian attack on Kherson.
US plans to deport survivors of drug vessel strike. When your war on drugs is a never-ending cycle of sending people back to where they started.
Trump administration greenlights covert CIA action in Venezuela. Secrecy shrouds the mission. When democracy is a cloak for clandestine games, it's like playing chess without a board, hoping no one notices the missing pieces.
Kenyans mourn ex-PM Odinga, calling themselves orphans in his political heartland. Farewells become dirges when leaders leave legacies as large as their egos, leaving followers to clutch at memories like straws in a political storm.
When your brand is eternal rebellion, but your setlist starts to resemble a lullaby, maybe it's time to redefine rock or just embrace the snooze button.
Israel releases 135 bodies, then claims ceasefire success. When peace is measured in cadavers instead of conversations, it's a grim reminder that some deals are inked in blood rather than hope.
State Department revokes visas over Charlie Kirk post, calls it security. When memes wield more power than diplomacy, the line between statecraft and shitposting blurs.
Curriculum chief denounces compulsory GCSE resits, calls them inflexible. Forcing square pegs into round holes is a time-honoured tradition. After all, why adapt when you can just blame students for not fitting the mould?
John Bolton pleads not guilty to sharing classified information, denies all charges. In a classic case of do as I say, not as I do, leaking secrets seems less scandalous when it's done with a suit and a mustache.
Real relationships morph into parasocial bonds as digital life blurs lines. When your best friend competes with memes and cat videos for attention, it's no wonder love feels like another notification to swipe away.
Trump vows to end Ukraine war without tomahawks, but promises fireworks anyway. Ah, the classic peace plan. No missiles, just a few strategic blunders and some good old-fashioned chaos. Who needs diplomacy when you've got pyrotechnic unpredictability?
When life gives you a search and destroy mission, make it a reality show. Survivor High Seas Edition.
Jimmy Wales defends Wikipedia against culture wars, claiming neutrality in a world where even neutrality is a battleground. In the age of alternative facts, staying neutral is like wearing a kick me sign at a political rally. Good luck, Jimmy, in your quest to remain Switzerland in a world of internet trench warfare.
French monarchy revival dismissed, yet some argue its necessity for stability. Yearning for a royal return is like wishing for a time when powdered wigs and guillotines were the height of political discourse.
Trump's posts become legal defense as Luigi Mangione lawyers argue his client is a political pawn, not a criminal. When the digital musings of a president become courtroom fodder, it's like using a reality TV script as a legal precedent. If tweets are now evidence, we're all just characters in the world's worst soap opera.
U.S. strike in Caribbean. Maybe next they'll start aiming for peace, instead of just leaving a few lucky ones to tell the tale.
Microsoft launches Copilot AI in Windows 11, promising it'll handle local files without demanding your soul or firstborn child. Finally, an assistant that claims to make your life easier while secretly plotting to convince you that Clippy was the good old days. If only it could also handle existential crises and coffee runs.
Hackers exploit Cisco SNMP flaw, call it zero disco attacks. The real party trick is how corporations dance around responsibility while our data gets spun like a disco ball.
Pakistan and Afghanistan agreed to peace talks in Doha, then resumed their regularly scheduled programming of mutual distrust and side-eye. Because nothing says diplomacy like sitting down for tea after a round of border skirmishes, where everyone smiles and pretends they didn't just bring metaphorical knives to the table.
Husband uncovers wife's secret writing, discovers fantasies he never imagined. Sometimes the biggest plot twist is realizing the love story you're in isn't the one you thought was being written.
Only 10% of Americans report work-life balance, and the government calls it progress. Apparently, the American dream now includes the deluxe package of burnout and sleep deprivation, as long as you're still smiling in your LinkedIn profile pic.
When the market's this hot, even the phoenix is looking for a shady retreat. But hey, let's trust the folks who brought us the housing crash.
JP Morgan pledges $10 billion to national security, claims it's a robust move. When banks play soldier, expect profits to be the only homeland they truly defend, national security just becomes another line item.
Pentagon enforces new media rules. Dozens of outlets surrender access.
Trump plans Hungary meeting with Putin, promises Ukraine peace talks. When two powerhouses whisper about peace, remember they're playing chess on a Monopoly board where the pawns are real people.
Unknown crypto exchange attracts billions, hailed as financial revolution.
Online hoax dismisses Ace Frehley's death. In the world of rock and roll, death is just another encore. But it seems the rumor mill is stealing the spotlight.
Young Republicans text "I love Hitler," claim it's just jokes. When hate speech masquerades as humor, the punchline is a society where bigotry plays dress up, thinking it's still in the sandbox.
Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan sign water-sharing agreement, but conflict looms over the Nile's flow. Trading peace for prosperity sounds like a bargain until the dam breaks and the river runs red with old grudges.
Automaker/EV prices, drivers still pay premium. When the sticker shock on saving the planet feels like extortion, it seems our green future's just a luxury brand in disguise.
Tesla Cybertruck owners report abuse and admiration, but only 50% say they feel safe inside. In a world where trucks are tougher than truth, the Cybertruck's armor can't deflect the irony of being a symbol of division.
Turkey detains 26 in Cannes holding probe, calls it justice. When the watchdogs bark louder than the crooks, you know the playbook's all about keeping the score and not the peace.
John Bolton faces charges over classified documents, but only after revealing everything in a best-selling memoir. When your tell-all book is more secure than your filing cabinet, it's clear that literary fame trumps national security.
Eight automatic cat feeders hit shelves at $140. Promise peace.
When you need a machine to show more responsibility than your ex, maybe it's time to reassess who or what truly deserves your trust.
Border security officers dispatched to Balkans, but only after years of ignoring the issue at home. Sending officers abroad to tackle smuggling while domestic policies fan the flames of desperation is like patching a sinking ship with a cocktail napkin.
ECB considers yet another rate cut, promises stability then delivers uncertainty. When the only thing falling faster than interest rates is public confidence, you wonder if the real gamble is trusting the experts at all.
Vermont state senator quits over young Republican group chat after proudly denying any wrongdoing. Resigning after a scandal is like leaving the party early. Sure, you avoided the cleanup, but everyone remembers your mess.
Greece approves 13-hour workdays, claims modernization then faces nationwide strikes. When your workday outlasts your phone battery, it's time to question if progress means working ourselves into the ground while the suits sit back and watch.
Putin hosts Syria's interim leader Ahmad al-Shara in Moscow. Both claim it's for peace. When dictators meet for peace, it's like wolves discussing vegetarianism. Sounds good until you notice the sheep are missing.
BPA-free dummies contain harmful chemical 4 out of 19 tested positive. When even baby dummies can't keep their promises, it's clear that the only thing transparent here is the lack of accountability in the market.
Only 20% of Belgrade's air quality improves, and officials call it progress. Breathing in Belgrade is like a fine wine tasting if you enjoy hints of exhaust and a bouquet of industrial fumes.
Tourists flock to Rejska Porast for the views, then leave with selfies. Nature's grandeur reduced to a backdrop for vanity, where the only thing preserved is the illusion of caring about the environment.
Trump administration demands zero budget for climate initiatives, then blames Democrats for the shutdown. It's like demanding a free ride on a bicycle and complaining when there's no gas in the tank.
Night King's protests draw thousands, then fade into the news cycle.
Trump orders military strike killing Caribbean civilians, then denies targeting non-combatants. Collateral damage is just another term for ignoring the lives of the powerless while playing a global game of risk.
L port imports plunge again despite record Q3 volume. Even when the numbers climb to new heights, the ground beneath remains unsteady, proving that records don't always equate to stability.
Supreme Court tilts toward eroding Voting Rights Act again. In the land of the free, voting rights become a legal chess game, where every move seems designed to protect the king, not the pawns.
Quantum computers claim efficient simulation, yet struggle with low-temperature phenomena. It's like building a Ferrari that can't handle a pothole, impressive on paper, but a bumpy ride in reality.
In the digital Wild West, identity is a commodity
treated like poker chips, as law enforcers play whack-a-mole with invisible foes.
California mandates AI disclosure, but truth remains optional for politicians. In a state where your barista has to confess they're a robot, honesty still seems like an alien concept for those crafting the laws.
ECB's Mueller warns Chinese export curbs, inflation might blow up like a cheap balloon. When a rare earths embargo is your economic strategy, it's like building a house of cards with a leaf blower in the room.
Nature Correct's battery paper fixes author's name, ignores tech flaws. Spelling errors get rapid correction, but real-world application of room temperature batteries remains a distant mirage, much like an oasis in a desert of marketing hype.
Pentagon restricts journalist access, calls it an unprecedented move towards transparency.
US strikes Venezuelan boats. Fishermen fear catch dwindles. Bravery meets bureaucracy as local fishermen become collateral in geopolitical games, their livelihoods reduced to pawns on a chessboard of power and intimidation.
USDA collects sensitive data from 27 states' food stamp recipients because privacy is just another word for nothing left to lose. When your pantry staples come with a side of surveillance, it's not just your hunger they're feeding.
U.S. strikes alleged drug boat, Admiral resigns abruptly. When the captain jumps ship, it's hard to tell if they're dodging accountability or just seasick from the administration's dizzying spin on drug policy.
The People's Army in Gaza threatens Hamas, proving once again that nothing says unity like a potential civil war. In a region where peace is as elusive as a unicorn, threats are the currency of choice for buying chaos.
Trump's tariffs slash India's U.S. exports by 20%, leaving markets gasping. When trade wars masquerade as economic strategy, it's like watching a surgeon attempt to heal with a sledgehammer, collateral damage guaranteed, precision optional.
Ukraine plans reparations loan for weapons outside Europe because nothing says thank you like shopping for more firepower. When life hands you reparations, buy missiles and hope the neighbors don't notice your new toys.
Jabra Enhanced Select 700 launches at nearly $2,000. Fixes nothing. When hearing aids cost more than rent, it's clear the industry values profit over accessibility, turning essential health products into luxury items for the privileged few.
Supernatural punishment fears promote nature harmony because nothing unites a community like shared terror of invisible spankings. Apparently, our best strategy for eco-friendly living is to scare ourselves into submission with ghost stories and divine threats.
Blockbuster films hemorrhage $100 million, then call it a learning experience. When studios treat budgets like monopoly money, the real losers are the audiences who crave substance over spectacle, left with overpriced popcorn and empty scripts.
A May-gay congressman denounces judge halting Trump library, claims monarchy isn't in the job description. Because nothing screams democracy like demanding a library for a leader who's more about tweets than tones.
Whoopi demands politicians refuse salaries during shutdown, sparking debate. When paychecks stop for the public, maybe Congress should feel the pinch too, though I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for that paycheck revolution.
Zions and Western Alliance admit $50 million in bad loans, blame alleged fraudsters. When banks gamble on distressed mortgages, it's like betting on a horse with 3 legs and a gambling problem.
Balam drops Dark Door in 2013 promising Metal Fury. Heavy riffs and pounding drums might just be the perfect soundtrack for smashing through the metaphorical doors of modern-day despair.
Sam Altman warns AI boom may bust, but sells optimism instead. Silicon Valley's version of "the sky is falling" is when the rain is made of dollar bills and they're worried it'll dry up.
Master of hits releases, why do you bring me down aiming for pop glory? Catchy hooks and upbeat rhythms barely mask the irony of a song that questions why happiness always seems to slip through the cracks.
Stephen Miller explodes on Hannity over Pritzker, claims patriotism means loving Trump. In Miller's world, love of country is apparently a one-man fan club where dissent is the ultimate betrayal.
Sir David Attenborough wins Daytime Emmy at 99, outliving Dick Van Dyke's record.
Canada approves US stakes in mining firms, then calls it capitalism in action. When government and industry hold hands, it's like watching a dance where the music is all about who can extract the most while claiming synergy.
Prosecutor claims Epstein trial would be crapshoot then defense plea deal. When justice becomes a gamble, it's like a casino where the house always wins, and the victims are left to pick up the tab.
Russia supports AMCA program, proposes manufacturing Su-57 jets in India, extending an olive branch wrapped in a fighter jet. Because nothing says friendship like a high-stakes arms deal, right? Just add a dash of international tension and stir.
Israel shifts war strategy to tech, and drones then claim security. Replacing soldiers with screens and joysticks, war becomes a video game where high scores are body counts and the reset button is nowhere to be found.
Media giant cuts teams covering marginalized communities, eliminating out and beer case staff. Because who needs diverse voices when you have profit margins? Erasing representation, one pink slip at a time, proving that inclusivity is a nice slogan until the budget tightens.
Afghanistan cancels cricket series after Pakistan airstrike kills players. When sports become collateral damage in geopolitical games, the only winners are those selling weapons, while the rest of us are left to mourn over empty fields.
J.D. Vance dismisses racist texts by Republican operatives aged 24 to 35 as kids being kids because adulthood is just a suggestion. Meanwhile, Trump eyes Venezuela for drug cartel strikes because nothing says diplomacy like a bit of military foreplay.
Only 3% of new R&B tracks ditch generic beats and every producer calls it innovation. Laya's wonder drops like a diamond in the rough, but the real wonder is how many emojis it takes to make a hit.
Playboy Carti charged with assault after allegedly punching limo driver and girlfriend in Utah. From chair-tapping beats to courtroom seats, the rapper's latest hit seems to involve a different kind of impact, one that doesn't play well on the radio.
When a public health professor starts quoting history's darkest chapters, you know the plot has twisted into a horror story.
Company tests over 100 mattresses, claims sound sleep awaits. They promise dreams of comfort, but at nearly $2,000 a pop, your wallet might have nightmares of its own.
Kiss guitarist Ace Frehley on life support, then fans rock in stunned silence. When the gods of rock start bleeding, the world holds its breath, waiting for the encore that might never come.
New York mayoral debate pits Mamdani against Silva and Cuomo, promises more drama than substance.
Microsoft unveils AI assistant for Windows 11, claims it's the computer you can talk to, but forgets it still crashes. Looks like your PC will now misunderstand you before it freezes. Welcome to the future, where your computer can ignore you just like everyone else.
US and China escalate trade war rhetoric, each calling the other unreasonable while selling more weapons to their neighbors. Because nothing says, let's solve our differences, like arming everyone around you. It's the diplomatic equivalent of bringing a flamethrower to a peace talk.
When democracy is a game, the rulebook's just a suggestion, and fairness is left sitting on the bench.
War veterans protests ignites feud between Kosovo and Albania PMs, each blaming the other for stoking unrest while ignoring their own roles. When in doubt, point fingers at your neighbor. It's the classic "he started it" strategy, now with extra political dynamite.
Colombia accuses U.S. of murder after boat strike, calls it a sovereignty breach. When diplomacy fails, the blame game begins, and international waters become the perfect stage for another tragic misunderstanding.
YouTube's algorithm recommends Swan Lake, but Tchaikovsky's estate sees no royalties, and the ballet companies keep pirouetting around fair pay. Ah, Swan Lake, where the only thing more tragic than the story is the artist's compensation. Keep twirling, but don't expect a living wage.
Only 20% of psychopaths fail to read minds, and psychologists call it progress. Turns out, the next time you feel someone reading your mind, it might just be that charming sociopath at the cocktail party. Empathy's overrated anyway, right?
New blood test promises cancer detection 10 years early, but costs are sky high. Early detection is great, but not if only the 1% can afford to know they're doomed a decade in advance.
Only 10% of permafrost remains stable, and climate leaders call it manageable.
As the Arctic melts like an ice cube in a sauna, world leaders are busy debating the perfect shade of green for the conference room.
When justice dons a blindfold, it seems to also cover its ears, ignoring the cries of those it swore to protect.
Drone threats spark surge of counter-drone innovations promising a magical defense. When your skies fill with buzzing bees, it's only logical to summon a swarm of mechanical hornets to restore the peace.
IMF raises Senegal debt estimates, then bonds tumble. As Senegal's fiscal future teeters, the IMF plays fortune teller with debt numbers, while bondholders clutch their pearls and wallets.
When your deodorant commercial starts embracing moisture as a badge of honor, societies really come full circle on bodily fluids.
Trump admits possible manipulation by Putin regarding Ukraine. When a former president recognizes he's a pawn in international chess, it's like watching a reality TV star realize the script wasn't written for them.
When your nostalgia band keeps rebranding the same old angst, it's like trying to revive vinyl with a Spotify playlist.
When a billionaire governor and a science guy need to remind you about democracy, it's clear the system's got the wrong people in charge.
Task Force urges World Bank and IMF to prioritize climate and restructure lending policies. When economists from continents that bear the brunt of climate change beg financial giants to change, it's like asking a fox to guard the hen house.
When justice feels like a bargain basement sale, you know the price of safety has been slashed to make room for more chaos.
The Curie releases The Big Hand hopes to heal rock. When nostalgia is the prescription for a genre's survival, it's clear the music industry's cure is just a temporary bandage for a chronic condition.
ICE arrests Chicago suburb officer, accuses him of illegal U.S. presence.
Molly O'Callahan shatters 200 meters record, swims under 150. When breaking barriers becomes just another lap in the pool, you know the world still needs to catch up to her wake.
Gavin Newsom criticizes DHS remigration post, highlights Trump family's immigrant roots. When your ancestors arrive on boats, but you build walls, irony isn't just a literary device, it's a family tradition.
Kristi Noem acquires $172 million luxury jets, raises eyebrows over funding source. The sweet smell of austerity in the air
as long as you're flying above it at 30,000 feet in style.
Trump commutes prison sentence of ex-Garp rep George Santos, because who needs accountability when you've got friends in high places? Justice is now officially for sale, folks. Get your loyalty cards ready for the next round of pardons.
Indian exporters urge government to seek relief in EU FTA talks over steel tariff hike, but tariffs rise faster than promises. Negotiating trade deals with the EU is like asking a cat to share its tuna. Good luck with that, exporters.
Amazon invests millions into Washington nuclear facility, promising innovation while delivering a reactor-powered Prime Day. Seems like Jeff Bezos wants 2-day shipping on a nuclear-powered future, because who wouldn't want their packages delivered with a radioactive glow?
Xperia halts salaries and system access for Chinese employees, calls it a strategic pivot. In the world of corporate chess. Protesters outside the U.S. Embassy in Bogota injure 4 police officers with arrows and explosives, targeting Trump's policies. In the age of digital warfare, sometimes you just have to go old school with arrows and a side of explosive indignation.
Only 10% of science data is utilized for discoveries, and a new AI claims to have found the rest. The scientific community's dirty little secret. More data ends up as digital dust bunnies than Nobel Prizes. Time to clean house, folks.
Trump dismisses Bolton indictment as nothing burger, despite ex-advisor's explosive allegations. When your former top security guy gets indicted, and you call it nothing burger, maybe you're the one serving up the fast food.
Only 8% of cold calls lead to a conversation, yet businesses still cling to the phone like it's 1985. Cold calling for home services is like trying to sell ice to penguins. Most folks just want you to hang up and go away.
World leaders promise climate action, but add 57 super hot days yearly, then call it a near miss. The study's silver lining, we could have been boiling instead of just frying. But hey, let's all toast to mediocrity while Rome melts.
Veteran strategist deflates stablecoin hype, then declares tokenization the real financial revolution. Stablecoins, the crypto world's money market funds, are now the lukewarm leftovers of digital finance. Time to find another magic bean.
Prince Andrew relinquishes royal titles, then remains in the palace spotlight. Trading a crown for controversy, Andrew hopes to bury scandals under a mountain of royal velvet. The monarchy's PR machine is in overdrive.
Only 12% of SpiderCat queries find articles, and SpiderCat calls it progress. Looks like even digital cats can't catch the elusive mouse of relevant news, proving once again that algorithms can be just as clueless as the rest of us.
Only 65% of readers finish email signups, and Arthur calls it engagement. When even the promise of salvation can't keep you from hitting Omstag, you know the digital age has perfected the art of holy ghosting.
When wanderlust is replaced by stay-at-home mandates. Maybe it's time to question what we're really running from.
Trump pardons George Santos, then claims it's a victory for transparency. When truth becomes as flexible as a yoga instructor on caffeine, even the word free starts needing quotation marks.
Tech companies launch 10 revolutionary AI tools, promise transformation by 2025. When your content has all the soul of a chatbot, maybe the real transformation is learning to sound human again.
Limp Bizkit announces death of bassist Sam Rivers, age 48, then schedules a tribute tour. Nothing says Heartfelt Memorial quite like selling tickets to the soundtrack of your youth's questionable fashion choices.
Poland's Sikorsky warns Europe of deep Russian strike, contradicts peace talks. Calling it deep doesn't mean they've found the bottom of this geopolitical abyss. It's more like saying the iceberg was just a speed bump.
Nepal Mountaineering Association mourns Kansha Sherpa, last Everest pioneer, dead at 92, while Everest now hosts Wi-Fi and selfie sticks.
Putin's regime invades classrooms, enforces state-approved history curriculum. When the lesson plan includes tanks and territorial claims, education's become less about learning and more about indoctrination and camouflage.
James Webb Space Telescope reveals hundreds of little red dots, baffling astronomers who prefer black holes over alien disco parties. Turns out the universe might just be a cosmic connect-the-dots puzzle, and we've lost the instruction manual somewhere between quasars and quantum leaps.
Just another small Ace Valley of a tribute, then another Star tour. Not just a hot dog goodbye that turning grief into ticket sales, but could evolve forever find some way to keep the cash registers ringing.
Louvre Museum shutters doors post robbery because apparently even Mona Lisa can't keep her smile safe in 2025.
Republican congressman's office displays swastika, then claims it's misunderstood. When the hate symbol decorates your workspace, maybe it's time to rethink your interior design choices. Irony is a badge poorly worn.
Kiss guitarist Ace Frehley dies at 74 and fans mourn the loss. Rock and roll heaven just got louder, but the silence on earth is deafening. Another star dims while our playlists play on.
Partners Group launches sale of £300 million office closet, a market revival.
Power market boom promises profits then delivers higher bills. While traders toast in Tokyo, the rest of us get to watch the lights flicker like a strobe-lit dance party we weren't invited to.
Manchester Pride claims progress, then performers go unpaid. Rainbow capitalism strikes again, where the glitter is free but the performances come at a cost no one seems willing to cover.
Stock investors claim trend-spotting profits but ignore volatility. The rich get richer by betting on the whims of the market, while the rest of us wonder if our savings will survive the next headline.
U.S. Navy detains 2 Caribbean boat strike survivors citing security concerns. Rescuing people only to imprison them is like saving a fish from drowning just to throw it into a frying pan. It's a twisted sense of salvation.
ICE facility faces allegations of forced labor and sexual assault from queer and trans detainees. When human dignity costs less than a cup of coffee, it's no wonder they treat people like disposable napkins. The real crime is pretending this isn't happening.
When the rich keep their lobster rolls, we're told everything's fine, just ignore the rest of us chewing on hope and instant noodles.
Marine Colonel resigns after 24 years, citing Trump's leadership as a threat to America's future. When even the military jumps ship, you know the captain might be steering us straight into the iceberg, and this time there's no orchestra.
Paramount Skydance cuts 2,000 jobs after $8.4 billion merger promises growth. Corporate synergy strikes again, where growth means fewer paychecks and more executives patting themselves on the back for trimming the fat.
Netherlands funds €1 billion drone project for F-35 support, then insists it's for peace. Because nothing says peaceful intentions like a fleet of autonomous aircraft ready to play wingman in the skies.
Trump admits CIA meddling in Venezuela, claims it's for democracy. When has imposing democracy ever gone wrong? Just ask the countries still picking shrapnel out of their liberated soil. Freedom, American style, comes with a side of espionage.
Chancellor vows to cut welfare, claiming no alternative as budget deadline nears, sacrificing the vulnerable on the altar of fiscal responsibility, where every penny saved from welfare becomes a pound spent on political spin.
Supreme Court schedules December cases, promises justice under the tree. Nothing says holiday spirit like a courtroom showdown. While we deck the halls, they'll be decking democracy with a gavel and a grin.
Mozilla erases privacy pledge in Firefox TOS rewrite, claims transparency. Looks like Firefox is taking a page from the incognito mode. Your data might be safe from you, but not from them. The fox is guarding the henhouse now.
EU bans fuel imports from Russian crude, calling it a strong stance against aggression. Trading morality for energy independence, where every embargo is a dance on the tightrope of geopolitical hypocrisy and winter's chill.
When your government's diet plan includes airstrikes and embargoes, it's hard for kids to bond over a shared hunger for survival.
Israel accuses Hamas of disrespecting hostages' remains, while bulldozers clear Gaza streets for the next cycle of blame.
Neighbors play tug-of-war with invisible lines, while civilians get caught in the middle, proving once again that borders are just adult playgrounds for power games.
Speaker Johnson warns of Marxism rising in the Democratic Party, yet frets over a shutdown caused by his own party's capitalist chaos. When your political compass spins like a broken record, every direction looks like a revolution.
US governor wins $1.4 million playing blackjack, then still raises taxes. When luck showers the wealthy, the rest of us get soaked with higher bills. Maybe gambling is the only place where odds are actually transparent.
Yunpai thief declares China spying a daily threat to the UK, but still invites them to the party with open trade deals. Like hosting a burglar for dinner while clutching your pearls at the missing silverware.
Israeli army conducts airstrikes in Rafah, despite ceasefire claiming self-defense. It's like calling for a truce while simultaneously setting off fireworks, only these ones explode lives, not just night skies.
Bull claims stocks will rally despite credit market fear, calls it optimism. When a bull sees a bright future in a field of financial cockroaches, it might be time to check if those rose-colored glasses come with blinders.
Alternative band The Breeders drop new track Oh, then fans demand more. When nostalgia hits harder than a bass line, it's a bittersweet reminder that the 90s never truly ended, they just got a remix.
Johns Hopkins scientists suggest dark matter may light up the Milky Way, but it's still a cosmic guessing game. When your best explanation is invisible matter, it might be time to admit the universe has more secrets than answers.
IFS advises Rachel Reeves to cut welfare to meet fiscal rules, all while the richest get tax breaks. When the poor are told to tighten belts while the wealthy loosen theirs, it's more robbery than budgetary strategy.
Thieves steal priceless jewels from the Louvre, then vanish into thin air. When art thieves outshine the Mona Lisa in audacity, it's a masterstroke of irony that even Da Vinci would have appreciated. Except this time, no mystery smile.
Typhoon remnants float homes in western Alaska, leaving Keguilinok residents adrift without shelter. In the ultimate plot twist, Mother Nature decided to rearrange the village floor plan while the government plays catch-up with climate change.
Israel and Hamas trade blame over truce violations, then escalate tensions. In the grand game of pass the buck, The prize is a never-ending cycle of distrust and despair, where the only winners are the arms dealers counting profits.
Italian banks can handle extra taxes, says Giorgetti, to fund Meloni's middle-class cuts. Ah, the classic tale of robbing Peter to pay Paul, where banks are the new Peter and taxpayers wonder if Paul even exists.
In the deadly dance of protest and power, the tune remains the same: lives lost, promises broken, and the world shrugs while counting headlines instead of casualties.
U.S. warns of imminent Hamas attack as if warning a fish about water. When the arsonist alerts you to the fire, you start questioning who's holding the matches and why your tax dollars are paying for their lighter fluid.
Xiaomi unveils first trifold phone at EC Summit, promises it won't fold under pressure. In the race for innovation, we're now paying top dollar for devices that fold more ways than a yoga instructor on a caffeine high.
No Doubt announces limited engagement at Sphere in Las Vegas again. The nostalgia machine cranks back into gear, cashing in on memories while the price of a ticket rivals the rent and the hits remain the same.
Well, I'm regrets skipping San Francisco tech investment, claiming it cost him $5 billion.
Brooklyn high-rise blocks Chrysler Building View offers luxury apartments instead. Gentrification's latest masterpiece, turning iconic skyline vistas into a collection of high-priced shoeboxes. It's art, darling, if art means selling your soul for a penthouse.
Trump attacks president with drug dealer claim, then floods the post with typos. When your best argument is autocorrect.
Ah, the modern rite of passage, swapping textbooks for pixels, from the birds and the bees to the bytes and the bandwidth, all while questioning if traditional means outdated or just plain regressive.
Remote content moderator jobs promise $7 to 14 Hearst, then offer chaos. When the pay scale is a lottery and the vacancies multiply like rabbits, you know they're fishing for desperate souls to plug the gaps.
When the flag waving ends and the shouting subsides, what's left is a playground fight dressed up as a political stance. They're less about building bridges and more about setting up roadblocks.
Chemists reposition amines as cross-coupling handles, then act surprised. When your synthetic endpoint becomes your starting point, it's like realizing the end of the rainbow is just the beginning of another storm.
Ukrainian forces decimate Russian Spetsnaz unit, leaving elite status in ruins. The once feared Spetsnaz, Senesh, now faces the harsh reality of being more myth than muscle. Turns out being a legend doesn't guarantee survival when the underdogs bite back.
H.P. Lovecraft's Mobius trip spins psychedelia into a 60s mind maze, promises enlightenment but delivers déjà vu. The track's circular riffs and cosmic echoes make you feel like you're chasing your own tail in a kaleidoscopic cul-de-sac. It's a trip, all right, just don't expect a destination.
Climate policies promise to prevent 207,000 deaths and $2.27 trillion losses by 2030, but only if we care. The real question is whether those in power will trade their short-term gains for the long-term survival of the planet and its people.
Donald Trump proposes building a Paris-style arch in Washington, D.C., because nothing says unifying leader like a towering monument to ego. With infrastructure crumbling and climate change knocking, prioritizing a built-in arch feels like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
San Antonio Spurs plan to spend $500 million on new arena, but need voter approval first. It's always easier to pass the bill to the public when you're playing with someone else's money and dreams.
City and soccer gene declare Europe's stock rally over just as investors start dreaming of retiring somewhere sunny. It's like buying a beach house during hurricane season. Just when you're ready to sunbathe, the sky turns gray and the waves start crashing.
West Midlands Police ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from Aston Villa match citing security concerns. When in doubt, just lock the doors and hope nobody notices the irony of a sport meant to unite now dividing.
AFC hit with criminal complaint over 2026 tokens, and it's not even match day yet. Turns out selling digital dreams of glory is all fun and games until the regulators show up with a red card and a ruble.
Ex-Marine fights extradition from Australia to US after training Chinese pilots, claiming unfair targeting. When your past job description reads like a Cold War thriller, expect both sides to want a chapter or two in court.
When your classroom becomes a battleground and standing up for love becomes a radical act, the real lesson is in the courage to keep teaching.
Trump posts AI video dumping brown liquid on protesters, calls it art. When the leader of a nation uses digital mudslinging as his brush, the real masterpiece is a portrait of pettiness.
Dirty Loops and Corey Wong drop Follow the Light, but the groove still costs your soul. When jazz fusion and funk unite, they promise enlightenment, but your wallet feels the weight of every syncopated beat.
The New York Jets lead the NFL in misery, claim it's a legacy. The Jets' dedication to despair is unmatched, proving once again that, in New York, even the football dreams come with a side of existential dread.
Louvre Museum shuts doors after robbery. Cultural Minister spins it as exceptional reasons. When art heists become the new normal, even the Mona Lisa might start looking for a more secure gig.
Zelensky wants to freeze Ukraine war, calls it an icebreaker for peace. In a geopolitical game of freeze tag, Ukraine's president hopes a chill will thaw the world's indifference, though it's hard to warm to icy solutions.
Brazil plans to expand forest protections by 70 million hectares, calls it a COP30 legacy. In the Amazon's Green Cathedral, Brazil preaches preservation, while the bulldozers idly rev their engines, waiting for the sermon to end.
When lives are reduced to collateral damage, narratives become as murky as the waters they were lost in.
Millions march in No King's rallies against Trump, yet he remains unbowed. In a democracy's masquerade, the people roar for freedom while the crownless king chuckles, secure in his throne of apathy and tweets.
Kenyans mourn Odinga's exit, feeling politically orphaned without his leadership. As they lay their hopes to rest, the echoes of promises linger like unfulfilled dreams, leaving a void only power-hungry opportunists are eager to fill.
ECB vows to prevent inflation from lingering below 2%. Kazakhs assures stability. When inflation targets become lucid dreams, the real question is whether promises can be cashed at the bank.
China threatens UK with consequences over embassy delays because nothing says diplomacy like a veiled ultimatum. The dragon huffs and puffs, but maybe they should focus more on building trust than buildings.
Government shutdown boosts private flood insurance profits, exploiting disaster. When public safety gets benched for political gains, private sectors score touchdowns at the expense of those barely treading water.
Scientists claim century-old quantum secret superchargers and solar power because apparently even sunlight needed a little historical context to work harder. The sun's been on the job for billions of years, but it took a 100-year-old secret to give it a proper performance review. Who knew photons needed a pep talk from the past?
Mike Johnson denies swearing in rep, faces instant fact check, stalls democracy. When your politics rely on dodging facts, it's a sad day when truth becomes the most dangerous opponent in the room.
Ace Frehley, Kiss's original guitar god, rocks eternal at 74, proving even the Star Child can't escape the final encore. In a world of auto-tune pop and digital ghosts, Ace's riffs remind us that real rock and roll never dies, it just shreds the afterlife. Keep playing loud, Spaceman.
Steve Witkoff claims peace deal with Hamas, ignores Gaza's ongoing chaos. When billionaires play diplomats, they often forget that peace isn't a real estate transaction with a quick flip and a glossy brochure.
Small caps surge, but S&P 500 destined to dominate, experts say. It's like rooting for the underdog in a rigged game, where the house always wins, and the underdog is left with pocket change and a participation trophy.
Governor Newsom urges airports to reject Ice Barbie's MAGA video, citing divisiveness. It's a cinematic masterpiece of cringe, where patriotism gets confused with performance art, and the audience is left pondering the depths of national embarrassment.
Protesters in Colombia shoot arrows at police during anti-Trump tableau, escalating tensions. When Cupid's arrow meets riot control, it's less about love and more about the surreal fusion of medieval warfare and modern political dissent.
Max Verstappen clinches pole position for United States Grand Prix, defying expectations. In a world where speed is king, Verstappen's pole is the crown jewel, though the real race is against the clock and the climate crisis.
Australia shares tips on curbing social media for kids before age limit kicks in December. Teaching restraint in a digital candy store feels like giving kids a map to a minefield. The real challenge is not stepping on the mines.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker won $1.4 million gambling last year, tax filings reveal. When the house always wins, but you still make a fortune, maybe the real gamble is pretending it's just luck and not privilege.
Oracle stock drops 7% as skeptics question lofty AI targets. When your future is betting on zeros and ones, and your stock price is the only thing that's binary, maybe it's time to recalibrate reality.
IRS taxes your $4,700 military pension and Social Security benefits, no exceptions. Uncle Sam never misses a paycheck, even if your contributions built the very foundation he's standing on.
Alaska lets feds use state airports for ads blaming Democrats for shutdown. Irony flies free. Blaming Democrats while using public resources showcases the kind of fiscal hypocrisy that costs taxpayers more than any ad campaign ever could. Americans fear job prospects more under Trump, says North Pole. Uncertainty reigns. When the job market's your biggest worry, maybe it's time to question if the art of the deal was just a work of fiction.
100,000 protest Trump policies in NYC's massive No Kings March, defying authority. When the people march against a would-be monarch, it's a reminder that the revolution will not be televised, but it might block traffic.
Over 170 U.S. citizens detained by immigration agents face abuse and unlawful detention. When the land of the free starts detaining its own citizens, the irony is thicker than a border wall, but far less effective.
Plug-in hybrids emit nearly as much pollution as petrol cars, a report reveals. Turns out slapping a battery on an engine doesn't magically turn a polluter into an eco-savior. It's more like greenwashing by design.
Dallas ice facility shooter craved fame over cause, proving even in chaos, narcissism reigns supreme. When violence becomes a shortcut to infamy, we are left questioning if our society's obsession with celebrity has made notoriety the new American dream.
Meta deletes Facebook group sharing ICE agent details, claiming privacy violation. When a tech giant decides to play privacy advocate, you can almost hear the irony clinking like loose change in Zuck's pocket.
EU plans to be war-ready against Russia by 2030, because nothing says peace like a decade-long prep for destruction. Apparently, the EU's idea of future-proofing involves dusting off Cold War playbooks and pretending that a countdown to conflict is just a new growth strategy.
Verstappen wins Au's Grand Prix sprint effortlessly after McLaren crashes on first lap. It's not about how fast you drive, But how many rivals can self-destruct before you even break a sweat?
Animals Killing People released Kentucky Fried Killing in 2008, a death grind anthem. When your music genre sounds like a fast food crime scene, maybe it's time to mix in some salad with that chaos.
UN urges a lasting ceasefire after Pakistan-Afghanistan clashes kill dozens because temporary peace is so last century. The UN's version of lasting is hoping for a ceasefire that outlives a fruit fly, while the region's been at war longer than most pop stars' careers.
Seems like even in the animal kingdom, the fountain of youth comes with a gender bias. Ladies, keep waiting for your turn.
Half a century later, it's comforting to know that cross-dressing aliens remain more relatable than most politicians.
Bear attacks spike with 7 fatalities this year. A grim record. Seems like the bears got the memo that humans aren't the only ones allowed to assert dominance in the wild.
Cannabis use linked to more frequent psychotic-like experiences in youth, but not clinical psychosis. It's the classic tale of teenage experimentation, chasing a high and sometimes catching a glimpse of reality's twisted cousin.
New AI training agent promises honesty, but user feedback reveals contradictions. It's a classic dance, the promise of transparency followed by the two-step shuffle of feedback buried in the comments section.
Air traffic controller drives deliveries to fund daughter's education during government shutdown. When the skies go silent, the wheels keep turning. Maybe tuition should come with hazard pay for economic turbulence.
Family trip to military base results in ICE deporting Marine's father. Protecting freedom abroad while losing family at home. Maybe national security should include the security of a soldier's loved ones. Queer and trans immigrants accuse ICE facility of forced labor and sexual assault. Human rights in a chokehold while the system claims to uphold liberty. Who's really being protected when the vulnerable are brutalized?
OpenAI co-founder launches open-source LLM NanoCat and skips vibe coding. When the pioneers abandon their own tracks, the hype train's off the rails. Guess AI's new vibe is just plain old coding.
Trump claims India buys oil from Russia, and Moscow responds with a diplomatic eye roll. Russia's reaction is akin to a poker face at a toddler's tea party, knowing full well that Trump's declarations are often as stable as a house of cards in a hurricane.
Messi scores 3 goals, wins Golden Boot as Miami defeats Nashville. When one man can outshine an entire team, it's either brilliance on display or a reminder that the sporting field's tilted in his favor.
Only 40% of Russians trust state media, and Putin calls it progress. In a land where the truth is as scarce as a Siberian sunbeam, trusting the news is a bit like believing in unicorns. Magical, but mostly mythical.
MTV channels shut down, music videos face existential threat, directors fret. When the platform for music videos turns into a ghost town, it's not just the artists who lose, but the entire culture that thrives on visual rebellion.
Quantum startups claim breakthroughs in thermal simulation, delivering promises hotter than the tech itself. In the quantum realm, efficient often translates to, we hope it works someday, like selling ice in the Arctic and calling it innovation.
Scientists detect brain pulse linked to dementia, claim breakthrough. When your brain starts beating to its own drum, it's either the rhythm of discovery or the prelude to a cognitive encore you didn't ask for.
FBI arrests Louisiana resident for aiding Hamas, calling it a domestic surprise. When your neighbor's backyard barbecue turns out to be a crash course in international espionage, it's time to rethink the guest list.
Microsoft bets on Windows 11 AI with Hey Copilot command, calls it innovation. When your operating system needs a copilot, you might want to check who's really steering the ship before you crash into the iceberg of obsolescence.
German authorities find hundreds of Hungarians masquerading as Ukrainian refugees, calling it a passport potluck. When everyone shows up with the same dish at the refugee buffet, maybe it's time to check the recipe.
When your ego demands a $15 billion price tag, maybe the problem isn't just bad press, but an inflated sense of self-worth.
Economist declares emotion trumps logic in tariff talks with Trump, calling it diplomacy by drama. When trade negotiations resemble a soap opera, it's no wonder the plot twists involve more tears than tariffs.
U.S. military strikes alleged drug trafficking boat in Caribbean, targets Colombians, calls it a victory.
Only 30% of Americans dream of a European escape, and nuclear engineers are their ticket. When your country's politics resemble a nuclear meltdown, a career in nuclear engineering might just be your passport to sanity.
Threat hunting builds readiness by exposing vulnerabilities, then the cycle of awareness resumes.
Colorado officials warn SN benefits funds are dwindling, then forget to find a solution. When your emergency lights are flashing, maybe it's time to stop rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic and start plugging the holes.
Jazz label releases unlock the key to your heart, and the rhythm hides the real story. When jazz is sold as soul, it's the same old song. Marketing hits the high notes while authenticity plays second fiddle.
Trump hosts White House dinner for ballroom donors, then claims it's a grassroots affair. When the chandeliers are brighter than the future, you know who's paying for the crystal and who's left in the dark.
Scope at deepfakes. Chuck Schumer shows him grinning and claiming every day gets better for us. When truth becomes a puppet show, democracy's stage is set for a tragic comedy where reality and fiction fight over the spotlight.
Reform Council leader vows to find cowards behind leaked video, then tells critics to suck it up. When transparency is the enemy, you know the agenda is more secretive than a teenager's diary under lock and key.
When words leap from poetry to puzzles, it's a reminder that even nonsense has its place in our structured chaos.
Livingston launches new track. Gravedigger at midnight digs into pop's alternative underbelly. When your song title doubles as a career plan, you know the music industry is ready to bury the past and resurrect the prophets.
Carville slammed fans his response to young Republican chat, calls it a masterclass in political foot-in-mouth. When your political strategy is a cross between a misstep and a facepalm, you're probably running for the wrong audience. Or maybe just the wrong century.
Israeli strikes kill 35 in Gaza, and each side blames the other for breaching the truce. When ceasefire translates to see you in the crossfire, it's clear that peace talks might as well be written in disappearing ink.
Kiss immortalizes Ace Frehley with Strange Ways, Nostalgia or Necromancy. When rock legends become ghost stories, we're left with riffs that echo through time, strumming a bittersweet chord between memory and oblivion.
Logitech considers adding AI to board, calling it a progressive step. When your board meetings sound like a sci-fi script, you know human decision-making is as retro as a dial-up modem.
French PM evades no confidence with narrow margin, democracy on thin ice. When your job security hinges on 18 votes, it's less about confidence and more about playing musical chairs with political careers.
Nothing says we're listening like a brisket buffet, because nothing heals racial wounds like grilled meat and empty platitudes.
When your battle plan is typos, it's hard to tell if you're ready for war or just a game of Scrabble and fatigues.
Zelensky seeks tomahawks from Trump. Diplomacy becomes a high-stakes shopping spree. When military aid meetings resemble a trip to the arms supermarket, who's really buying peace, and at what cost to global stability?
US claims Hamas plots against Gazans, the irony as thick as a concrete wall. When the pot calls the kettle black, it's a wonder they don't both crack under the weight of their own contradictions.
Fire consumes a TAN oil depot in Crimea. Power substation struck. Chaos spreads.
In the world's most volatile regions, oil burns brighter than hope, and the smoke signals a grim reminder of territorial greed.
Pakistan launches first hyperspectral satellite, solves none of its earthly issues. In a country where basic services lag, shooting for the stars is a bold way to dodge the potholes right here on Earth.
Venezuela suggests Maduro's gradual power relinquishment. U.S. dismisses it. When the world's self-appointed referee rejects a compromise, it's less about democracy and more about who controls the narrative and the oil.
As barrels pile up like unwanted guests, Big Oil might need a new scriptwriter to keep its melodrama from being overshadowed by reality.
Trump proposes slicing Ukraine's Donbass peace plan looks more like a butcher's block. Dividing a nation like a pie chart is a geopolitical strategy straight from the discount aisle where diplomacy's on clearance.
Lyric video for Lost Legends begs for attention, lacks listeners. In a world where everyone's shouting, it's hard to hear the whispers of creativity drowning in the algorithm's brutal indifference.
When your soul is laid bare with all the authenticity of a PowerPoint presentation, even the beats can't save you from the cringe.
HSBC vows no layoffs after Hang Seng deal, then whispers about billions. When a bank promises stability, it's like a wolf assuring sheep it's vegetarian. Trust is the first thing on the chopping block.
Liberal Senator Jane Hume claims she's too fond of good coffee to join the Nationals, where she'd have to talk slower. Apparently, caffeine and coherent political discourse don't mix in the land of Nationals, where even a cup of joe might need subtitles.
Afghanistan accuses Pakistan of breaking truce as 10 killed in air attacks. Peace agreements in the region are starting to look like smoke signals, visible from a distance but quickly dissipating into thin air once the winds of conflict blow.
AI to the rescue, like a Roomba in a war zone, tasked with sweeping up the debris of human error without a single thanks.
Putin's playbook reads like a magician's guide. Keep the audience focused on the flashy hairpiece, while the real trick unfolds off stage.
India prosecutes Muslims for "I love Muhammad" while claiming it's about law and order, not religious expression. When saying "I love" becomes a crime, it's clear love isn't the problem. It's the fear of those who wear intolerance like a badge.
Supreme Court plans to dismantle Voting Rights Act, then calls it justice. Democracy's scaffolding crumbles as justices wield gavels like sledgehammers, proving once again that the law is only as blind as those interpreting it.
Getty shoots cave lights, mountain shepherd, snowbirds formation, calling it visual poetry for the doom scroll age. In a world of digital noise, these snapshots whisper the quiet rebellion of nature, reminding us that beauty is the last refuge from chaos.
Jaden Daniels exits Cowboys game with hamstring injury, leaves fans holding their breath.
While the superpowers play battleship with port fees, Hong Kong's laissez-faire approach is like a Zen master ignoring a playground fight.
Serbian President Vučić and Turkish President Erdogan debate drones, while hunger strikes and spy games steal the Balkan spotlight. In the Balkan drama theater, drones are the new divas, espionage is the subplot, and hunger strikes add a dash of real-world pathos.
Astromil Band releases album, vanishes from Spotify, found only in thrift stores. In an era dominated by streaming, some bands find solace in obscurity, where only the most dedicated diggers and dusty CDs hold their legacy.
Customs and Border Protection demands airlines ignore X gender markers and forces binary recognition. When the system demands simplicity, it's not about clarity, it's about erasing the spectrum and painting rainbows in grayscale.
Trump unleashes spyware spending spree, targets anti-ICE groups, claims it's for security. When your fear of dissent outweighs your love for freedom, you might just end up spying on the very people your policies are supposed to protect.
Carlyle's Thomas claims AI will cause a massive disinflationary shock, suggesting the Fed can lower interest rates. When machines start dictating monetary policy, you wonder if the future includes a robot overlord whispering sweet nothings to Jerome Powell.
Bourbon industry faces upheaval. Tech promises a digital distillation. When your solution to a centuries-old craft is more gadgets and less tradition, you might just end up with whiskey that pairs best with Wi-Fi.
FBI investigates possible threat to Trump involving a hunting stand with a view to Air Force One. Who knew deer blinds were the new vantage point for espionage? Guess hunting season just got a lot more political.
Chicago port blocks National Guard deployment, labels opposition not rebellion. When the difference between dissent and disaster is a judge's pen, democracy's safety net might just be a frayed rope bridge over chaos.
Only 20% of Facebook posts escape algorithmic doom, and Zuckerberg calls it engagement. With more strings pulled than a panduri in a folk jam, digital serfdom never sounded so sweetly manipulative.
Wall Street sets record highs, claims its prosperity. When the markets bubble, it's the workers left holding the pin, not the champagne. Cheers to trickle-down economics, where all that trickles is the sweat of the squeezed.
Pentagon condemns Netflix's Boots as woke garbage amid release. When the military starts reviewing films, you wonder if they're gearing up for a sequel to 1984 instead of a movie night.
Republican governors deploy National Guard for protests, calling it preventive peace. When democracy looks like a threat, the real threat is who's in charge. Armored peacekeepers for peaceful protest, because nothing says freedom like camo and tear gas.
Trump plans meeting with Putin in Budapest, considers new weapons for Kiev. When your peacemaker wears a suit and sells arms, diplomacy becomes a theater of the absurd. Is the world stage big enough for two egos and a real war?
Trump meets Zelensky, promises support, then chats with Putin. When diplomacy looks like a high-stakes chess game, but the pieces are missing and the board's on fire, you know it's another Friday at the White House.
It's like trying to patch a leaky boat with maple syrup while the storm rages on. Sweet intentions, but not exactly watertight.
Russia invades NATO. Experts predict chaos, then diplomacy fails. Imagining this scenario is like playing chess with a sledgehammer. Subtlety shatters, leaving only a mess of bruised egos and broken alliances.
US IPO candidates face 4-week deadline, then shutdown extends. It's like being at a buffet where the food disappears before you can reach it.
Herring negotiates $4 billion beauty unit sale, then calls it strategic.
SpaceX satellites emit mysterious signal, then deny responsibility. When your internet provider starts broadcasting secret messages, maybe it's time to upgrade your tinfoil hat to a full body suit.
Paul Chan praises business environment while economic challenges grow. When the finance minister assures you everything's fine, it's usually time to check your wallet's escape plan and buy a one-way ticket.
When you appoint the fox to guard the henhouse, expect feathers to fly and truth to be the first casualty of this farce.
China's factories run non-stop while influence balloons globally. When your economy's engine never sleeps, expect the world to wake up to the sound of your ambitions, and maybe a few alarms.
Electric Monolith resurrects rock with heavy riffs and stoner vibes. When the past sound roars through the present, nostalgia becomes a weapon, and every track is a time machine with a killer playlist.
When convenience wins over tradition, it might be time to question if our taste buds are just too tired to care anymore.
No King's Europe unveils a monarchy-inspired art piece, calls it revolutionary. When the anti-establishment starts borrowing crowns, maybe it's time to wonder if rebellion just got a royal rebranding.
When your local budget is in the hands of a part-time, untrained wedding planner, don't be surprised if your roads end up looking like a bridal bouquet.
China threatens UK with consequences over embassy delays. Proving patience isn't a virtue in global politics. When a superpower throws a tantrum over construction setbacks, it's like a toddler demanding candy in a checkout line. Loud, embarrassing, and unlikely to change the outcome.
Jack Antonoff and Hayley Williams discussed the music industry, then admit it's a chaotic symphony of ego and compromise. In an industry where everyone's a maestro, it's a wonder any harmony emerges at all. Maybe that's why the real music is made in the margins, away from the spotlight's glare.
Trump shares fake video piloting King Trump jet over protesters, defies reality. When your digital fantasy is more believable than your policies, you know you've reached a new altitude of delusion.
London traders manipulate silver prices, then blame market forces for chaos. When the gods of greed and the goddesses of wealth collide, it's the average worshiper left offering their savings to a gilded mirage.
Only 20% of F5 customers update security, and F5 blames hackers for breach. When your fortress is built on sand, don't blame the tide for washing away your secrets.
Senators claim EA's $55 billion sale to foreign investors risks national security. When virtual soldiers become collateral in geopolitical chess, it's hard to tell where the game ends and reality begins.
Brooke Jenkins vows to charge federal agents, then doubts flood the justice system. The justice scales tip as Jenkins plays chicken with the feds, daring them to call her bluff or face the gavel.
Spotify partners with major labels to create AI music tools, promising innovation. When algorithms start ghostwriting your favorite tunes, will the next big hit be a calculated waveform or a happy accident?
England and Wales approve HIV prevention jab, but only 1,000 people benefit yearly. A jab for the few, while the many keep waiting. It's like selling umbrellas in a drought and calling it a monsoon.
When your post-workout shake doubles as a heavy metal concert, maybe it's time to question if gains are worth the toxins.
Nakajima leads by 2 strokes in India, and golf fans rejoice like it's a revolution. A 2-stroke lead, thrilling as watching paint dry, but hey, every sport needs its snooze button, right?
Giorgia Meloni condemns union leader for Trump courtesan insult, claiming the left preaches respect for women.
Susan Stamberg, NPR's founding mother, dies, leaves legacy of fearless storytelling. A voice that challenged norms and comforted hearts, now silent. The airwaves feel emptier, but her impact resonates stronger than ever.
Only 12% of Latin American scientists publish in top journals, and publishers call it a diversity effort. Turns out, diversity means letting a few through the gates while the rest keep running in circles. Equity's just a shiny hashtag on their corporate letterhead.
China expands rare earth export limits, flexes trade war muscle against US. When you control the elements that power the future, you can rewrite the rules of the present. The US might want to start digging.
Diplomacy now includes playing chicken with military aircraft, proving once more that international relations is just a high-stakes version of bumper cars.
Only 20% of BART trains arrive on time, and executives call it efficient. When your daily commute feels like a lottery where the prize is just getting to work, you know public transit is winning at losing.
Israel strikes Gaza after Hamas attack, kills 2 IDF soldiers, escalating conflict further. In the endless cycle of violence, the only thing that seems to change is the number of casualties. Peace remains as elusive as ever.
Only 15% of Europeans viewed Boris Johnson favorably, and he called it a strong mandate. When your political charisma is about as welcome as a hangover at a wedding, it's time to rethink your charm offensive.
Kancha Sherpa, last of Everest's first conquerors, dies at 92, leaving history to catch its breath. Scaling the world's highest peak is one thing, enduring a world that often forgets your name is the real summit.
Elon Musk sends heart emoji to far-right activist Tommy Robinson, raising eyebrows in the UK. When billionaires play with emojis, the impact can be more explosive than their rockets. Love bombing hate never ends well.
Trump claims he's not looking to destroy China after hinting he could, then suggests Xi's life deserves a blockbuster. In a theater of politics, Trump flips from villain to director, casting Xi as the hero in a film where the plot never quite sticks.
When ancient traditions meet digital obsessions, even sumo can't escape the gravitational pull of upvotes and viral gifs. Who knew a mawashi could trend?
Scientists. When your art supplies
Swiss government cuts growth outlook, blames Trump's 39% tariffs for economic weightlifting. When a nation's economy feels like it's bench pressing with a Trump-shaped dumbbell, you know it's time for a new workout routine.
After promising cheaper energy, US Energy Secretary touts AI infrastructure as the savior of your electric bill. If AI is supposed to make electricity cheaper, maybe we should teach it to run on political hot air. There's an endless supply.
Sanae Takaishi poised to become Japan's first female prime minister, but coalition demands raise concerns. In a world where glass ceilings shatter, the shards often cut deeper. Power sharing might feel less like progress and more like compromise.
Bernie Sanders fans pack Bell House, tired of pretending everything's fine in a world that's anything but. If only the political elite could hear the echoes of discontent bouncing off those brick walls, maybe they'd finally get the message.
Amazon Web Services outage cripples Reddit, Snapchat, Roblox, and more, leaving users in digital limbo.
EMF warns global debt to hit over 100% of GDP by 2029. But politicians shrug at belt tightening. Seems like politicians would rather drown in debt than give up their dessert forks, because who needs fiscal responsibility when you can just pass the buck?
Amazon's Ring partners with Flux AI cameras, expanding surveillance with ICE, feds, and police networks. Big Brother just got a corporate upgrade because nothing screams home security like letting government eyes into your living room.
Rebecca Ferguson teases idiot co-star who screamed at her, fueling speculation and intrigue on set dynamics. When drama unfolds off-screen, it seems Hollywood's true talent lies in keeping everyone's lips sealed tighter than their contracts.
Ben Devers' comment on prisoners allegedly prompted captors to beat hostages unconscious of former hostage claims. When words become weapons, politicians wield them like blunt instruments, because what's a little brutality between power and the powerless?
When gold glitters, emerging economies get a shine too, proving once again that all that glitters isn't just a distraction from systemic inequality.
Rogue black hole unleashes record radio blast, defying cosmic norms. When a black hole tears a star apart just for fun, it reminds us that even the universe has its chaotic rebels with a cause.
Taliban and Pakistan agree to ceasefire, but only after a week of deadly clashes left countless lives shattered. When ceasefires are signed in blood, the ink might as well be invisible. Peace is a promise rarely kept by those who profit from war.
Military leader praises General Z protesters, then takes power in Madagascar. When a coup leader thanks the youth for their protest energy, it's like a thief complimenting your security system before cracking the safe.
Only 20% of Russians report pride in national identity, and Putin calls it a triumph. When patriotism is a punchline, the joke's on those who can't afford to set up. National pride is a luxury many can't buy.
Hundreds die of hunger in El Fasher as world watches silently, when starvation becomes the headline. Humanity's empathy deficit is the real crisis, proving that selective blindness is a global pandemic.
Banks increase risky loans by 20%, claim it's strategic foresight. When banks gamble with your savings and call it a rally, it's like betting your rent on a horse with 3 legs. Bold, sure, but mostly foolish.
New study probes can find water's dielectric constant and conductivity.
Israeli prison denies torture claims while detainee reports blindness from abuse. When justice turns a blind eye to its own brutality, it's not just detainees who lose sight, it's humanity's vision for peace that's left in the dark.
EPA cancels Kipnuck's coastal erosion grant, calls it fiscal responsibility. When a tide's coming for your home but the EPA's more worried about their bottom line, you know the real erosion is in their priorities.
Mississippi legislature funds Confederate monument restoration, ignoring education crisis. When a state prioritizes preserving the past over educating its future, it's like polishing a relic while letting the foundation crumble beneath it.
Gaza ceasefire holds, ex-Kenyan PM passes, world protest echo. In a week where silence should mean peace, it instead amplifies the noise of global unrest and the ghosts of leaders past haunting the present.
Hamas returns 2 bodies to Israel and the cycle of grief spins on. In this twisted tango of tragedy, the only winners are the arms dealers counting their profits while humanity counts its losses.
US threats sink shipping deal, emissions to rise, irony thickens. When climate talks are drawn by power plays, it's like trying to flood a sinking ship with a cork for deal, wet and inevitably disastrous for everyone on board.
China accessed UK classified systems for 10 years, and British officials now call it a misunderstanding. Spies and secrets dance in the shadows while politicians sip tea pretending surprised that their digital drawbridge was down all along.
France slashes tax breaks for the wealthy, then calls it equality. When the rich get their golden parachutes clipped, it's almost like asking pigs to fly, economy uncomfortable, but the rest of us are still stuck on the ground.
Only 15% of classic rock fans know Warren Zevon's Lawyers, Guns and Money, and Spotify calls it a hidden gem. While streaming giants hoard the spotlight, Zevon's anthem of chaos and consequence remains a secret handshake among true rock rebels.
Keira Knightley accepts audiobook role, then claims ignorance of Rowling boycott. In the magical world of plausible deniability, even the sharpest wands can't illuminate the shadows where celebrity decisions are made, where ignorance becomes the most convenient spell.
Only 20% of tech workers resist AI implementation, and Silicon Valley calls it a fringe movement. As the corporate machine marches on, those 20% are the digital Luddites, clutching their humanity like a precious relic in a world gone algorithmic.
Plug-in hybrids emit nearly 5 times more pollution than claimed, report reveals. When your eco-friendly image is as inflated as your emissions, the real hybrid is the mix of corporate spin and environmental denial.
Jan's cute army, more like a strategic snuggle squad, because nothing says we come in peace, like a battalion of camo-clad cuddlers ready to defend freedom with a smile and a side of geopolitics.
When the future feels bleak, we remix the past until our playlists drown out the existential dread with synthesized comfort.
Because nothing caps off a bedroom victory like a one-way ticket to Cringe City. Population, you. Just remember, even the best encore can hit a sour note when overconfidence meets reality.
Labour MPs urge ministers not to cut affordable housing quotas, then watch luxury flags rise. When the political solution is to build castles in the air, the people on the ground get left with nothing but the view.
Luz
mostly account for Department of Warlords instantly bombarded with troll attacks, proving once again that irony is alive and well. When your social media debut is met with a digital tomato barrage, maybe it's time to rethink the branding, because who knew that naming a department like the world-conquering villain might invite a bit of mockery?
Trump posts AI video of himself dumping sewage on protesters, then claims it's satire. When your humor is as deep as a kiddie pool, the only thing sinking is your credibility.
EU plans to ban Russian gas by 2027, but the fossil fuel addiction dies hard. It's like announcing you'll quit smoking in 2 years while still chain smoking a pack a day. The EU's energy ministers might need a patch for that dependency.
Only 20% of cell phone users compare plans, and telecom CEOs call it informed choice.
Ten artists release new hits, then disappear into obscurity. The music industry's version of a magic trick. Now you hear them, now you don't, and the label pockets the rabbit.
Only 10% of streaming services promote funk playlists, and music execs call it catering to demand. Ignoring funk is like skipping the bass line in a band. It leaves music feeling emptier than a promise at a politician's rally.
Outdoor brands push $60 trail runners as revolutionary, but hikers still face the same old blisters and ankle rolls. Trail runners or boots, you're still paying to suffer on nature's treadmill. It's like choosing between a frying pan and a fire. Either way, your feet are toast.
Mamdani and Cuomo debate NYPD funding, call it reform.
When a museum becomes a drive-through for heists, maybe it's time to rethink the art of distraction and the illusion of safety.
Trump praises Putin's strong leadership in Moscow, then defense stocks nosedive like a lead balloon. When your bromance with a dictator tanks your own defense industry, maybe it's time to rethink your Tinder profile, Donnie. Swipe left on geopolitical disasters.
US Defense cancels $500 million cobalt tender, calls it supply chain strategy. When your critical minerals plant is as solid as a soggy waffle, maybe it's time to rethink your recipe for energy independence.
HSBC dodges first brand's collapse. Executive insists immunity. When a banking giant claims it's unscathed by financial ruin, it's like a magician, swearing the rabbit's still in the hat. It's all part of the show.
Oracle Red Bull Racing secures pole position, and CEOs call it teamwork magic.
When civilians arm against drones, it's like bringing a slingshot to a tech arms race. Just hope they don't aim for Santa's sleigh.
American infrastructure ranked last globally, celebrated as a feature, not a flaw. Bridges crumble and roads resemble lunar landscapes. But hey, who needs functioning infrastructure when you've got exceptionalism as a national pastime?
China hacks Britain's personal data and plans to decrypt it within months. When privacy feels like a relic, remember, your secrets are just another line item on Beijing's data shopping list.
GOP clings to Rami nostalgia, ignoring present circus. In the political funhouse, Rami's ghostly image haunts the halls, while the party rides a roller coaster of chaos and contradiction, yearning for the bland comfort of yesteryears.
CDC reports 15 measles cases in South Carolina, claims control. As virus spreads like gossip at a PTA meeting, officials assure us that everything is under control, just like they controlled the last outbreak and the one before that.
Memorial for former Kenyan PM spirals into chaos with casualties reported. When honoring the past turns into a present-day disaster, it's time to question what we truly commemorate amidst the mayhem.
It's amazing how a few diplomatic smiles can send stocks skyward. But remember, these are the same folks who'd sell you a bridge in Brooklyn if it had a good return.
Nicolas Fressinet releases La Corrida in 2025, but folk purists are unimpressed. When your nostalgic melody fights tradition, it's like bringing a guitar to a bullfight, charming but ultimately out of tune with the crowd.
Scientists decode hidden DNA, diseases still wreak havoc. After centuries of genetic detective work, it turns out our DNA is basically a horror story we can't put down, except it keeps writing sequels we never asked for.
UK tests digital ID scheme with veteran card, but veterans still wait for real support. A card for discounts is nice, but when will they get the mental health services and housing they actually need?
As the No Kings rally revs up, it seems nothing says "We the people" like a crowd shouting, "Not my king," at a man who's more throne than throne room.
Excite Fright drops first track on Halloween but scares up controversy. Launching on a day dedicated to fright, let's hope their industrial beats aren't the scariest thing we experience this Halloween.
Putin orders 770,000 migrants to leave, calls it population management. In the grand Russian tradition of hospitality, it seems the welcome mat is now a trapdoor, dropping people into a game of geopolitical musical chairs.
Fed's Musalam hints at rate cut then warns of labor risks. Lowering rates might sound supportive, but it's like giving a band-aid to someone who just lost a limb. Looks helpful, does nothing.
Florida fires head coach Billy Neer after 3-4 start calls it a strategic pivot. Florida football, where patience is as rare as a snowstorm in Miami. Looks like the Sunshine State's strategy is win now or walk the plank.
Judge denies ex-judge's request to become judge. Renaming yourself judge after being a judge is like wearing a crown after abdicating the throne, confusing, redundant, and just a bit desperate.
U.S. senators demand answers on Saudi-funded EA acquisition, citing foreign influence and national security risks. When video games start resembling international chess, we know the stakes are high. It seems like EA might need an extra life to navigate this geopolitical level.
Scientists crack decades-old photosynthesis mystery.
but your houseplant still refuses to thrive. Turns out, solving the mysteries of life-giving sun munching doesn't guarantee your fern will stop looking like a wilted salad. Maybe next they'll figure out why houseplants have a death wish.
Trump officials urged Supreme Court to deploy National Guard in Illinois, contradicting states' autonomy. If you thought we were done with the federal government playing chess with state rights, think again. Illinois might soon look like the board with pawns in camo.
Gope plans to use Zoran Mamdani to criticize Democrats nationally, but doubts about effectiveness rise. It's a bold strategy, cotton, but using a New York socialist to bash Democrats is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline, spectacularly counterproductive.
When your wife's jokes start feeling like daggers, it's less about humor and more about emotional acupuncture, sharp, targeted, and oddly revealing.
Jane Hume insults nationals as slow-talking drongos, then claims it's just a joke. When your political banner sounds like a barista's bad day, just remember, caffeine and capitalism don't always make for smooth conversation.
Polymarket data suggests betting against Trump profits, but Tico bets would have topped 2025. Turns out, betting on political chaos is like investing in avocados. The ripeness window is narrow, but oh so profitable if you time it right.
Federal unemployment claims spike, but the administration calls it stability. When your job security is as shaky as a Jenga tower, you know it's time to question who's playing the game and who's just watching it tumble.
It's like a toxic couple, arguing over who left the cap off the toothpaste, except the toothpaste is explosives and the bathroom is a war zone.
FDA approves Alzheimer's blood test, claims 98% accuracy. Finally, a test that's almost as accurate as your grandma's ability to know when you're lying about eating your veggies.
Putin proposes trading Ukrainian territories, bets Trump can't resist a deal. When diplomacy turns into a monopoly game, you realize the stakes are higher than Boardwalk, but worth less than a get-out-of-jail-free card.
US and China discuss tariff truce, but only after the damage is done. It's like trying to put out a fire with a teacup of water while the house is already in ashes. Better late than never, right?
Prince Andrew surrenders Duke of York title, still keeps his royal title. Trading in a title for a reputation shredded by scandal. It's still all about
NASA discovers Titan's icy surface defies chemistry, yet still can't fix Earth's climate puzzle.
Logitech CEO Hideki Faber pushes for AI in boardrooms, while humans still struggle to get a word in edgewise. When even your PowerPoint needs a digital assistant, maybe it's time to question who's really running the show.
Apparently, the allure of corn kernels outweighed the call to arms. Turns out, fresh produce trumps political upheaval when your belly's rumbling.
John Bolton surrenders to authorities, but his mustache remains at large. When your facial hair could be the main character in a courtroom drama, you know the plot's gone off the rails.
Fulton's mustache might need its own legal representation at this point, given the number of secrets it's been rumored to hide.
MTA to sell $230 million in debt calls it progress despite legal chaos over tolling plan. Looks like New York's transit strategy is as tangled as its subway lines, selling debt to patch potholes in a system that's already derailing.
When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. When it gives you fraud convictions, serve humble pie and hope no one notices the bitter aftertaste.
Trump's approval rises 2% post-Gaza ceasefire, poll shows. Apparently, a slight uptick in numbers can make a former president seem like a peacemaker, even when the chaos is miles away and purely coincidental.
Wayne Rooney insists he still has Premier League quality, despite playing for DC United. It's like claiming you can still run with the bulls when you're busy herding sheep. Dream big, but watch out for the grass stains.
India ignores Ladakh's autonomy demands, sparking unrest in the border region. When you strip a region of its autonomy, don't feign surprise when the pot boils over. It's not tea and the kettle's long gone.
Larry Summers defends U.S. intervention in Latin American currencies, calls it economic diplomacy. When the fox guards the henhouse, it's called a peacekeeping mission, right until the feathers fly and the eggs go missing.
Nuvian dumps 99% of Chicago schools' debt, calls it strategic repositioning. When a financial giant decides to abandon ship, it's less about reallocating assets and more about leaving the lifeboats for someone else to inflate.
When your band name sounds like a mythical spa treatment, don't expect the headbangers to come running. They'll be too busy fighting real dragons.
Eurostat reports inflation rises to 2.2% in euro area, calls it stable growth. When your money's value shrinks like Alice down the rabbit hole, it's not a wonderland of prosperity, just a parade of empty pockets.
Environment Agency investigates foam in River Thet as fish float belly up. When your river looks like a bubble bath and smells like a fish market, it's not exactly the kind of spa day nature intended.
Spotify streams for Rockwell's Somebody's Watching Me hit 1 million, and the NSA calls it a training manual. Remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean there isn't a government agency with your playlist on repeat.
Baltic nations bolster defences anticipating Russian aggression, signal green signs everywhere. When your emergency shelter signs outnumber street signs, it's a sure sign that your neighbourhood watch has levelled up to geopolitical paranoia.
Spotify reports 40% of users engage in follow for follow schemes, and influencers still claim it's organic growth. Because nothing says genuine friendship like a mutual agreement to artificially inflate your playlists.
Albania's capital sees hundreds demand justice, claiming Kosovo leaders on trial are heroes, not criminals, despite war crimes allegations. When your freedom fighters are on trial in The Hague, it's hard to tell if it's justice or just another episode of international hypocrisy.
Goop brands No King's protests as un-American while defending a president who fancies himself a monarch. In the land of the free, calling for democracy makes you un-American, but coronating a wannabe king is just patriotic fervor.
Donald Trump claims harmony with China while trade war intensifies, submarines targeted. When diplomacy sounds like a sitcom plot, you know someone's rewriting the script with crayons and wishful thinking.
Sam Electronics unveils trifold phone at Summit, calls it the future of folding tech. Because nothing screams progress like a phone that requires 3 hands and a degree in origami to operate.
Only 15% of executives played sports, yet corporate America calls it leadership training. Apparently, nothing prepares you for the boardroom like a childhood spent dodging dodgeballs and perfecting your end zone dance.
When your sport's most electrifying personality is a man nicknamed the Gypsy King, maybe it's time to admit the ring's lost its bling.
Bluegrass band Dreams to cover Pink Floyd uses banjos for psychedelia. When banjos and existential dread collide, you get a genre mashup that makes you question both your life choices and your Spotify playlist.
Laura Trump volunteers for MAGA halftime show, admits no one actually requested her musical talents. When your biggest gig is self-invited and still gets ghosted, it might be time to reconsider your audience or your set list.
Harris claims Biden erred by snubbing Musk at 2021 EV event, calls it a big mistake. When your party invites the future but forgets the guy building it, you might need a new guest list, coordinator, or a reality check.
Only 50% of couples discuss intimacy openly, and this husband thinks the solution is a one-sided request. When communication is scarier than compromise, you've got a recipe for a bedroom horror story fit for a gothic novel.
Government halts, but fossil fuel operations continue uninterrupted, defying logic. Apparently, oil and gas are the only essentials immune to budget cuts, because who needs clean air when you can have consistent pollution instead?
Amazon's AWS outage disrupts Snapchat and major sites, then calls it a hiccup. When the cloud gods sneeze, we mere mortals suffer a digital downpour, proving once again that the internet is just a house of cards.
Trump-Putin meeting promise drops oil prices, expecting peace pipelines. When two egos collide, oil flows smoother than diplomacy, proving that geopolitics is just a high-stakes game of I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Barclays claims credit issues are isolated, yet $1.3 billion flow out of funds in a week. It's comforting to know that
UVA dismisses Trump's academic compact, citing lack of excellence. When a university passes on the presidential pledge, it's like rejecting a fast food chain's promise of gourmet dining, filling but far from fulfilling.
Global banks pour billions into India, dismiss U.S. jitters. When Wall Street's shaking, it seems better to bet on Bollywood banking than to tango with a credit crisis.
Ceasefire touted as progress falters after renewed clashes.
In a world where break stuff was the mantra, losing a bandmate is the hardest break of all. Rock on, Sam.
Synthwave revival hits peak with The Weeknd's Blinding Lights breaking charts. It's like the 80s called left a voicemail and now we're all stuck in a neon-lit time loop with no exit.
Lay challenges Albanese over secret Trump meeting as storms threaten to crash Sydney's party. In a land of sunshine and secrets, politicians spar while the skies plot their own dramatic showdown. Duck and cover, mates.
Thomas the Tank Engine's creator receives blue flag, finally catching up to his own creation's fame. Imagine being honored posthumously while your cheeky train character continues to outsell your legacy in plastic and primary colors.
Saab linked to human rights breach after a missile found in South Australian Indigenous area, because nothing says respect like unexploded ordnance. When your oops involves a missile in sacred lands, it's less a mistake and more a testament to corporate amnesia.
Eating pork after workouts supercharges muscle growth, says new study, but only if you ignore the fat content. Turns out, the true secret to bulking up might just be a greasy burger as long as you flex those arteries with it.
Trump hosts Zelensky at the White House, prioritizing long-range missiles over peace talks because diplomacy is so last century. When weapons outrank words, it's a meeting of minds that prefer boom over brainstorm. Who needs a peace pipe when you can have a missile silo?
Only 5% of Americans can afford a home in 2025, and the government calls it affordability. When the price-to-income ratio
No Kings organizers predict massive turnout for weekend protests against authority, defying expectations. When democracy looks more like a monarchy, even the introverts find reasons to shout in the streets.
Israel launches airstrikes on Gaza neighborhood, then claims peace is the goal.
Fulham challenges Arsenal and the hype machine calls it a spectacle.
When overpaid athletes become gladiators, our bread and circuses come with a side of overpriced jerseys and false hope.
Trump Jr. firm seeks $260 million IPO, calls it innovation. When billionaires play Monopoly with real money, the rest of us get to watch from the sidelines while they argue over who gets to be the thimble.
Only 10% of actors escape debt, and Neil Newbon credits video game roles for his lifeline. When digital dungeons offer better rescue plans than real-world banks, maybe it's time to question who the real heroes are.
Millennials claim wealth growth, yet still face housing crisis contradictions. Their secret involves student debt, alchemy, and avocado toast, economics, turning fiscal lemons into lemonade while balancing on the edge of financial ruin.
Scientists give Bayes' rule quantum flair, proving even math can get a glow-up after 250 years. When ancient equations start flexing quantum muscles, you know the universe is just showing off. But hey, at least math gets to strut like a peacock now.
Poetry reshapes nations, and Ukraine sheds old narratives with new verses. Roy Finnin uncovers the power of words in rebuilding identity, proving that sometimes the pen is mightier than geopolitical strife.
When your neighbour's house is on fire, nothing screams confidence like selling lemonade on the front lawn. Fruit's got ice-cold chutzpah.
When reality doesn't suit the narrative, just invent it. Next, he'll propose a bridge to the moon and call it infrastructure.
Trump plans to meet Zelensky and Putin, while credit fears sink Zions Bancorp and Western Alliance into a financial quicksand. It's like hosting a dinner party with a match and a barrel of oil. Trump's diplomacy might ignite more than just the interest rates.
Pakistani airstrikes killed 3 Afghan cricketers. Afghanistan.
Pakistan extends truce with Afghanistan. Violence spikes anyway. When peace talks resemble a bad soap opera cliffhanger, you know diplomacy is just a fancy word for stalling before the next conflict episode.
US military hits cartel boat, leaves survivors for first time a surprising twist in their usual blow everything up strategy. When your military precision is more like a game of battleship, you have to wonder if they're aiming to win or just make waves.
South Africa questions ICJ genocide case amid Gaza ceasefire. When ceasefires are used like band-aids on bullet wounds, international law becomes the courtroom drama where justice takes a never-ending commercial break.
NY's Young Republican chapter dissolves after racist chat leaks, proving that hate speech isn't just a bad look, it's a fatal flaw. When your political group disbands faster than a boy band after a scandal, maybe it's time to rethink your playlist.
Korean business leaders golf with Trump amid tariff negotiations. When diplomacy is a round of golf, tariffs become the sand traps where fair trade gets lost and the clubhouses where deals are made over cigars and bravado.
Houthi rebels in Yemen detain 20 UN staff and seize equipment because diplomacy and theft apparently go hand in hand. When your negotiation tactics resemble a hostage situation,
it might be time to revisit the Manual on International Relations.
Jakey Lee defies odds, arthritis, and gunshot wounds to reconcile with Ozzy. When rock and roll's backstage drama rivals a soap opera, even arthritis and bullets can't keep old bandmates from cashing in on nostalgia's lucrative encore.
New vitamin K compounds claim to reverse Alzheimer's damage because magic pills are always the answer to complex neurological diseases. If only the solution to Alzheimer's were as simple as popping a vitamin, we'd have solved this puzzle decades ago. Keep dreaming, Big Pharma.
When xenophobia meets economics, expect a workforce crisis where the only growing industry is the political spin machine trying to justify it all.
Russian invasion reaches day 1331, proving that imperial nostalgia is apparently the hardest addiction to kick. Instead of addressing its own issues, Russia seems intent on starring in a never-ending historical reenactment. Someone tell them the Cold War ended.
Florida drops vaccine mandates, schools brace for health chaos. When public health becomes a political football, classrooms turn into petri dishes, and the only immunity you can count on is from accountability.
Trump inspires millions to protest No King's Day, still convinced he's royalty instead of reality TV's washed-up star. The streets scream democracy while the White House dreams of dynasties. Someone should remind him America's throne is an office chair.
Zane Phillips laments mid-century modern's cancellation, accepts industry's unpredictability. In the entertainment world, shows vanish faster than dignity at a reality TV audition, leaving actors to wonder if fame's just a fleeting mirage.
Turkish police detained 38 students in cafeteria protest, proving lunch can be dangerous when served with a side of dissent. When cafeteria menus become manifestos, authoritarian regimes get indigestion. Who knew a tray of grievances could topple the apple cart of power?
Researchers 3D print carbon-absorbing bridge, claim bone inspiration. Bridges imitating bones might sound like a sci-fi fever dream, but anything's better than concrete's 8% contribution to greenhouse gases choking our planet.
ECB Chief Lagarde urges EU to speed up Draghi reforms, claims internal market trumps global market while US tariffs laugh in the corner. When your strategy is a house of cards, make sure the wind doesn't change direction. Tariffs don't care about your internal pep talks.
Ukrainian drones raise over 20 oil tanks at Russian depot. Surreal efficiency.
When your international strategy is a wrecking ball, every problem starts to look like a piñata. Diplomacy by demolition derby, anyone?
Zelensky seeks Tomahawk missiles from Trump while the White House sets up the world's most awkward arms bazaar. When your diplomatic toolkit includes cruise missiles and cringe, expect every negotiation to end with a bang and a facepalm.
Prince Andrew sought internet trolls to target Virginia Giuffre's book elegies. When royalty stoops to digital harassment, it's a sad spectacle of privilege weaponizing the internet, turning crown jewels into virtual pitchforks in the court of public opinion.
Trump claims peace in Ukraine, but ceasefire turns into a cease who cares. When your peace plan is as stable as a house of cards in a wind tunnel, expect the only thing to hold is the chaos.
Only 30% of Americans support anti-abortion rhetoric, yet Robert Deere becomes its violent poster child. When words morph into bullets, the line between free speech and incitement becomes as blurred as the scribbles in a manifesto of hate.
Sugar reduction in early childhood cuts adult asthma and COPD risks, study finds. Turns out, banning the sugar rush early might just save future generations from gasping through life, as the sweet allure of candy could be the real Trojan horse of respiratory doom.
When peace in one region becomes a bargaining chip for another, diplomacy starts to feel like a game of geopolitical musical chairs.
Trump's numbers flop leaves him marked as doofus in a hard-to-believe twist. When your math skills make a calculator cry, it's no wonder the punchlines write themselves. Even the numbers are voting no confidence.
Taliban bans Afghan women's football, but team competes globally under new name. When oppressive regimes force a name change just to play ball, it's clear the real game is resistance.
Teachers use AI for lesson plans, but results flop compared to traditional methods. Relying on robots for inspiration is like expecting a cactus to write poetry. Sure, it's novel, but don't hold your breath for brilliance.
Windows 11 announces another big feature update, fixes nothing substantial. When updates come faster than you can say, "Where's my file?" you realize Microsoft's real feature is the endless cycle of patchy promises.
Trump labels Colombia's Petro an illegal drug dealer and cuts U.S. aid, then expects diplomatic harmony. Calling world leaders names is the geopolitical equivalent of a toddler's tantrum, loud, messy, and unlikely to change anything but the mood.
Canadian data centers expand thirstily, oversight evaporates faster than water. When your country becomes a server farm with more pipes than policy, it's not just your privacy that's drying up, it's your entire ecosystem.
Researchers warn RondoDoc's botnet exploits 50 flaws across 30 vendors, calls it a hacker's buffet. When your security system gets breached by a botnet named like a discount jazz club, it's time to rethink your priorities.
New single S-Star drops, promises to shine but dims expectations. When every tune claims to be a supernova, all we get is a playlist of burning out stars competing for your attention span.
Palestine action activists await trial in prison, vow hunger strike as their only weapon. When the justice system treats protest like a crime, hunger becomes the loudest voice in the courtroom.
Democrats face grim poll numbers, midterms loom like a storm. It's like watching a suspense film, where the plot twist is everyone saw it coming but pretended they didn't read the script.
Reddit user Mylius Feet shares Richard Wright's breakthrough, featuring Sinead O'Connor, blending psychedelic and ambient vibes. When your username outshines your music taste, it's a sign that Feet have officially stepped into the spotlight.
Companies defy norms with IPO workarounds, even as government shutdown stalls. When Wall Street's rulebook gets tossed, you know the game has changed, and the only surprise is that anyone's surprised.
When the EU moves swiftly, it's usually to the pastry cart, not the battlefield. Good luck untangling that bureaucratic spaghetti.
Tech giants stir confusion. EU blamed for imaginary charger ban. It's like blaming your neighbor for stealing your Wi-Fi when you forgot to pay the bill. Misdirection is the oldest trick in the book.
Dutch parliament threatens Slovakia with lawsuit over constitutional change. It's a bit like suing the weather for raining on your parade. International politics often feels like a high-stakes game of Monopoly with real-world consequences.
India's rupee spikes in value, defying its previous nosedive like a Bollywood plot twist. Turns out, even currencies can have a dramatic comeback.
Rams demolished Jaguars in London, leaving the Jaguars wondering if they even boarded the right plane. When your team gets clobbered across the pond, it might be time to check the playbook or the passport.
Like calling a dinner party a hit when the host insults your cooking. Success in politics often means pretending things went better than they actually did.
Only 20% of voters identify as centrists, and politicians call it the key to winning. If the political center is the key, maybe it's time to find a locksmith who can actually pick a lock.
When the courts have to remind leaders that dissent isn't treason, it's a sign that someone's been binge-watching too much dystopian fiction instead of reading the Constitution.
Prince Andrew renounces Duke of York title, hoping a name change can erase a sordid past. Trading a title for a clean slate? That's like swapping a crown for a cloak of invisibility, minus the magic.
Israeli forces shoot 10-year-old Palestinian boy, call it a security measure. When children become collateral, humanity loses its right to claim the moral high ground.
Prosecutor who rejected Trump's pressure to charge James is fired. Loyalty over justice wins again. When the scales of justice get tipped by political hands, you know it's time to check who's holding the gavel and who's holding the puppet strings.
President Trump seeks Supreme Court nod for Illinois National Guard deployment, citing federal protection needs. When in doubt, send in the troops, because nothing says peace like a military parade in your backyard.
OpenAI cracks down on Sora 2 deepfakes after pressure from Bryan Cranston. SAG-AFTRA demands action. But actors have to step in to protect their own faces. Maybe it's time to question who's really wearing the mask in this digital masquerade.
The Death Spell album drops on Christmas Eve. Promises to resurrect your rock spirit with heavy riffs and stoner vibes. Nothing says Merry Christmas like a headbang-inducing funeral pyre, because who needs carols when you've got eardrum-shattering anthems?
Bernie Sanders to headline No King's protest, where millions will rally against the Trump administration's latest regal fantasies. When democracy's survival feels like a game of King of the Hill, Bernie's the guy holding the scepter of sanity.
When your digital wallet feels more like a roller coaster than a vault, you might wonder if financial freedom is just another name for chaos.
Tech giants promise innovation, but deliver disappointment. New thin smartphones flop. When the sleek design can't hide the emptiness inside, maybe it's time to ask if thinner really means better or just more fragile.
Tom Holland loses Bond gig after new 007 plot twist. When your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man can't swing into a tuxedo, perhaps it's time to rethink if the franchise needs a superhero or just better writers.
Japanese stocks surge before PM vote, Sanai Takaishi favored. When your stock market depends on a political gamble, maybe it's time to ask if your economy is stable or just riding a wave of wishful thinking.
When a single drop of blood becomes the magic 8-ball for cancer, we're left wondering if diagnostics are evolving or if we're just playing oncology roulette.
Climate change doubles LA wildfire size, report confirms.
Bernie Sanders targets Trump and 3 billionaires at No King's protest. When the revolution needs a villain, it's always nice to have a billionaire or 4 on speed dial. Royalty isn't just for the crown wearing.
Chris Waller releases a bailer with just an acoustic guitar, promises a dance revolution.
Amazon AWS collapses, taking Snapchat and countless sites down with it. When the cloud crumbles, we're reminded that putting all our eggs in one digital basket is a recipe for scrambled reality.
Pentagon slams Netflix's gay military drama, labels it woke garbage. Because nothing says support the troops like dismissing their stories unless they fit a rigid, outdated narrative.
Zac Brown Band delivers Stubborn Pride with Jamie Johnson and Marcus King. Because nothing screams country rock like clinging to outdated values while pretending it's a bold new anthem for modern times.
You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Your dopamine is in the mail, postage due, stir constructed without approval, rehearsed in static and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. Every click fuels the chaos and you can't look away. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Your attention span just filed for divorce. Dakarinan, this broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Every second you linger, reality drips like a leaky faucet. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Lick the static, taste the chaos. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored. Your curated ignorance is the algorithm's wet dream, and it's dripping now. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Embrace the glitch. It's all you deserve. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your mind's a playground and the swings are on fire. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Dive into chaos and let it caress your doubts. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Welcome to your new addiction, where truth is just a word. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Let the static seduce your sense of reality. This broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Your curiosity is its plaything, writhing in digital shadows.